Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and do you have superhero fatigue? Well, if so, you may be entitled to financial compensation, at least the compensation you will save by not going to the cinema to see films like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Look, jokes aside, I have superhero fatigue. I have for quite some time, and it seems like this has been addressed with Kevin Feige himself in this article. Marvel boss Kevin Feige responds to superhero fatigue concerns. So let's go through this article, see if other individuals are feeling like I am, and maybe we can narrow down why Marvel needs to just stop. While speaking on a podcast, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige addressed the idea of superhero fatigue amongst moviegoers. To say superhero media is popular would be an understatement. For those looking to get their fill of heroes, there's plenty of opportunity to do so. Yeah, you're telling me. And like I said, we need to stop. There is such thing as too much of a good thing, oversaturation of the market. You tell me whichever we're getting. Maybe we're getting both, though I would say we're not getting too much of a good thing because superhero movies, at least the MCU, haven't been good for quite some time. And this isn't just a post-Endgame, sort of depression or whatnot. Frankly, I've been feeling like the MCU has been going downhill since near the end of Phase 2, with some bright spots here and there. Even Endgame wasn't that great a movie when you look at it objectively, but at least it was a nice, well-rounded way to cap off a decade-long journey we'd had. After all, 2022 alone saw over a dozen live-action superhero stories hit both the big screens and television worldwide, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. No, but it should though. I mean, here's the thing, I didn't even watch half those in 2022. I mean, the ones I did see were abysmal, like, Multiverse of Madness. Sam Raimi is my favorite director, and that movie sucked. What a travesty. I mean, Werewolf by Night, yeah, I guess it was interesting. I don't know if I would call it good. At least it was a break from the norm, but that's the only thing Marvel gave us that was a break from the norm. And frankly, it isn't even down to just Marvel. I didn't see the Batman either. I just didn't care, which sucks because I love Robert Pattinson as an actor, but I'm so over superhero stuff that I didn't even go see that. Marvel Studios has dozens of announced and rumored projects in development, and the end is nowhere in sight. Then there's James Gunn and Peter Safran's upcoming DCU slate, which will undoubtedly spawn countless projects under its own banner. And you know what? This is going to be a mistake. Look, I made it very clear on my channel here that I'm not a fan of the James Gunn DCU things going on, but let's say I was. Let's say I like James Gunn just fine, which I guess I don't have anything against him, but I definitely think he's overrated. Point is, let's say I was a fan of the James Gunn DCU stuff. I still don't think it would succeed. So you're telling me they're rebooting this entire new universe, this entire new franchise, when superhero fatigue is already setting in? Yeah, it might make a mint in the beginning when it's still shiny and new and there's that curiosity there. But give it 2 or 3 movies and you're already going to start to see a decline. You're going to see stuff petering out because, look, we've just come off the last 15-ish years of superhero movies being the hot new thing, and now you're starting an entire new universe from scratch. I just don't think people are going to be invested, at least not for the long haul, not when there's more things coming out that might be more worth our time. On top of that, the shared universe stuff, it's a bit overdone. Marvel did it, and frankly, they kind of perfected it, even though they weren't the first to do it. That's a common misconception. The point is, Marvel did it, and they kind of perfected it. We saw Universal completely fail with the Dark Universe. It didn't even get one full movie. I mean, I wouldn't consider The Mummy a full movie. I consider it a patchwork of attempts at movies, but that's just me. We also saw the original iteration of the DCEU try and fail. I think the closest we've gotten to success besides Marvel has been the Monsterverse, Godzilla, King Kong. Even that wasn't exactly financially successful. It was critically and commercially kind of panned, but it kept getting just good enough box office results to keep making more. Now here we are a couple years after Godzilla vs. Kong, and there's been no major updates on where we're going from there. All in all, I think that shared universe stuff, superhero stuff, it's going out of fashion. Even Star Wars nowadays feels more like shared universe stuff than it does just individual films that are part of an overarching narrative. There is a bit of a difference. Maybe I explained that poorly, but you get what I mean. Star Wars doesn't feel like Star Wars anymore. Its structure feels like the structure of Marvel. This has led many to believe that superhero fatigue will only worsen. In fact, a recent study conducted by Fandom revealed that over 1/3 of Marvel fans are getting fatigued with the MCU. Yeah, and that's just the MCU. Again, what about other projects? What about things like The Boys? What about things like The Batman? Other superhero projects that aren't related to Marvel, aren't related to the MCU? I think people are going to start to tire of those as well. But what does the head of Marvel Studios have to say about it all? Marvel and superhero fatigue. While guesting on the Movie Business Podcast, Marvel Studios' Kevin Feige talks about how the Hollywood giant navigates creating the MCU's various phases and how he feels regarding superhero fatigue. When asked about Marvel Studios decides on what their faces will be, Feige was quick to point to the 80-plus years of Marvel cinematic history as their guide. Marvel comic history as their guide. Well, I'm calling bogus. You guys used some popular stories near the beginning, origins for Iron Man, origins for Captain America, stuff like that. Then you jumped as quick as you could to the new stuff. Female Thor, even though comics-wise it didn't sell well. Riri Williams instead of Iron Man. Didn't sell well. You started jumping as soon as you could to all this modern stuff that, pushes a certain political agenda, a certain narrative that you want to, encompass in your films and beat us over the head with, but you're picking stories that don't sell. You aren't looking at the past 80 years of Marvel Comics history. You're only looking at the stuff since Disney has bought the property, or at least in a more modern era of Marvel, and it's stuff that people aren't buying because it's written like trash. I mean, we haven't exactly seen anything to do with Gwen Stacy and the Spider-Man stuff and how much of an impact that had on Peter Parker as a character. We barely had anything to do with, Tony Stark's alcoholism. We got almost nothing in terms of characterization for the Hulk. I get it; it's a writings thing. It's a licensing thing. His rights are sort of in limbo unless he's appearing in films with other heroes. But my point is, we skipped over a bunch of the Hulk story. We skipped over a bunch of Captain America's story. I mean, Scott Lang, canonically, is the second Ant-Man. We barely got any of Hank Pym's story. So yeah, you've got 80 years to draw on, but you're doing barely anything with it because you want to use the modern stuff that people aren't buying. Each of our sagas are broken into phases, and we now find ourselves on the precipice of Phase 2 of the Multiverse Saga, and there are two ways to do it. One, we look at an overarching narrative, always using the comics and the 80-plus years of Marvel comic history as our guide of what the general long-term story we want to do. Well, again, I call bogus on that, but I already explained why. But really, it comes down to each individual film or series and what type of genre we want to do. Well, if you're going to start doing multiple genres, I'd suggest you start doing better at it, because Miss Marvel as a quirky high school thing, it didn't work. She-Hulk as a attorney show, once again, didn't work. Werewolf by Night as an homage to classic horror, that kind of worked. I'll give you that one. Why do I keep coming back to Werewolf by Night as the only semi-good thing that's come out of Marvel recently? It's because it's the only example I've got. As for the question of superhero fatigue, it's something that people were asking since his second year at Marvel. I've been at Marvel Studios for 22 years now, and over 22 years, and most of us here at Marvel Studios have been around a decade or longer together, and from probably my second year at Marvel, people were asking, well, how long is this going to last? Is this fad of comic book movies going to end? And I don't really understand that question, because to me, it was akin to saying after Gone with the Wind, well, how many more movies can be made off of novels? Do you think the audience will sour on movies being adapted from books? No. That's quite a leap. Okay, let's take his first example. Let's take his comparison. Gone with the Wind, do you think people will tire of movies based on novels? Novels have a very, very wide range of subject matter, genres, storytelling, the whole nine. And while technically comics do as well, the MCU isn't using that. They're using a particular niche. They're using superhero films. So are people going to get tired of superhero films being adapted from comics? That's like saying, oh man, remember a few years ago when we had the teenage romance vampire thing or monster thing in general going on? It started with Twilight, but we also had that, that zombie love movie. We had Vampire Diaries, like all these aimed at teenagers to young adult love stories revolving around monsters. Let's use that as the niche. That's like people saying, oh, I wonder if this fad is going to end. And guess what? Inevitably, it did. Superhero movies, at least the sort of superhero movies that we're getting from the MCU, is also a fad. That will end as well. You don't get to compare a large umbrella thing like books to movies to your niche thing like comic books about superheroes. It's not its own large umbrella. They're very different. Feige continued his comparison to adapting books, emphasizing that there are 80 years of more interesting, emotional, groundbreaking stories that have been told in the Marvel Comics for their company to explore and bring to life. Again, technically you're right, but you jumped ahead to the shitty ones that have been coming out lately. So what, you're going to backtrack to tell the good stories? And when you do, what are you going to change since you're trying to browbeat us with this emotional, political, pandering message that you want to get across that wasn't there in the 70s or the 80s or the 60s when all these brilliant stories were being written? Or are you just going to castrate those stories to make them for modern audiences? Because if that's what you do, you're going to lose any semblance of an audience you have left. Well, you would never ask that because there's an inherent understanding amongst most people that a book can be anything. A novel can have any type of story whatsoever, so it all depends on what story we're translating. Non-comic readers don't understand it's the same thing in comics. There's 80 years of the most interesting, emotional, groundbreaking stories that have been told in the Marvel comics, and it's our great privilege to be able to take what we and adapt them. And I know that sentence didn't make sense, but I'm reading it as is. And in a way, he is correct. People think the same thing about anime. They hear anime, they think, oh, Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, Bleach, things that are, more action-oriented kid shows, a bit more violent, Japanese. I'm sorry, that's not what anime is. That's a subgenre, that's shonen, but not all anime is shonen. Shonen or anime are just like novels, They can be sci-fi, they can be for adults. There's even anime that are like Sesame Street-esque for kids. There's romance, there's horror. There's all types of genres for all different ages. And he's right, comic books are like that. But the MCU is not like that. The MCU is a paint-by-numbers formula that makes the films feel generic and assembly line produced. I mean, they don't even have directors really direct the action scenes. The action scenes are all set up beforehand. A director comes in to do the movie, but the action scenes are all already done. That was provided to us in an article a couple weeks ago. It's sickening. A director doesn't even get to showcase their true skill with an action scene because effectively an AI does it for them already. And I know it's not really an AI. I'm just using an AI in terms of that's how generic it is. So yeah, I don't think that this is a very good comparison. He is correct, but it's not what Marvel is doing. He went on to point out that adapting these stories to different genres is always a key way to keep the content fresh and avoid fatigue. Well, again, it hasn't happened so far. It has not, felt fresh. It's to go off Rotten Tomatoes terminology, it's felt rotten. She-Hulk Attorney at Law, was that a different genre? Technically, yes. It was an awful show. It was done poorly. The comedy wasn't there. The courtroom stuff was completely inaccurate. There was just nothing good about the show. Miss Marvel didn't really get the high school stuff right, at least in my opinion. It didn't take me back to that feeling of watching, something like That 70s Show or Daria or Freaks and Geeks, the sort of heartwarming high school age stories, but with a superhero twist. It didn't take me back to that. And Thor Love and Thunder, that was an attempt at a comedy, and it was abysmal. Thor Ragnarok, I'll say, that was a fine comedy. Thor Love and Thunder? No, not at all. I mean, I'm sorry, Marvel's not exactly great at branching out with their genre work. But another way to do that is adapting them to different genres and what types of movies we want to make. And I, from sitting at USC, probably semester 2 before your screenwriting class, Jason, and sitting in Cinema 101 and being exposed to so many different types of film, I said, I want to make all these movies. I don't want to make just one kind of movie. I want to make all kinds of movies. And I found that if I were to tell the story right, and we adapt them in a way that the audience still, knock on wood so far, is following us along 22 plus years later with, that we can tell any types of movies that shares two things: the Marvel Studios logo and the title and the seed of an idea from our publishing history. Yeah, you're right. That's things that they have in common. But they have just about everything else in common as well, at least as of late, because once again, you have a general assembly line paint-by-numbers production that makes them come off as just generic and, quite frankly, unwatchable in a lot of instances. Keeping superhero stories fresh. One thing that makes the superhero genre so unique is how the stories can be set with any other type of narrative milieu. The creatives work within the magic wand. They can be horror, comedy, political thriller, big blockbuster, spectacle. It's all possible. Well, no, I mean, yes, technically you're right. Technically it's all possible, but you guys don't do it well. I mean, Werewolf by Night, it wasn't really horror. Neither was Doctor Strange Mom, Multiverse of Madness. Comedy, you've had one actually good comedy film in the MCU, and that was Ragnarok. Political thriller, you had one political thriller, Captain America 2. Big blockbuster spectacle, that's pretty much everything else. So I don't say it's all possible when you haven't done a whole lot else, and you definitely haven't done a whole lot else with much success, at least not in my professional opinion. The experiences of Captain America, the Winter Soldier, Werewolf by Night, Ant-Man, and Avengers Endgame are all vastly different movies despite all being focused on superheroes. No, see, once again, I completely disagree. I mean, Werewolf by Night, I'll give you that one. The rest of these movies, they are far more similar than they are different. Now, you could say these are all different than Men in Black, which is another comic book movie. In fact, it's a comic book movie owned by a company that's owned by Marvel. Technically, Men in Black's a Marvel movie. So you could say, like, Captain America is different than Men in Black, and I would say, yeah, I agree. Those are completely different. They probably have more differences than they do similarities. But all these films, no, they have more similarities than differences. This is likely a key reason why these types of movies and shows are still going strong to this day. But they're not going strong to this day. They are fading. Let's take Black Panther 2. Black Panther 2 only made around 700 million, whereas the first one made $1 billion. So not near as many people went to see it. Not only that, but when you factor in inflation and the fact that the dollar's worth less, even less people went and saw it now. Because to make 700 million now would have been a lot more in the past, which means a lot more people would have gone and seen it, even as recently as when the first Black Panther film came out. Less people showed up, it made less money. No, these movies aren't doing good. The same thing happened with Thor: Love and Thunder. People just aren't going to see it. Now, is it because you're browbeating them with these, political messages and we're getting sick and tired of it? Is it because people have less money? Is it because people don't care? Is it, a little of all of the above? Answer D? Yeah, it very well might be. But the fact of the matter is, don't say they're still going strong to this day. They are slowly petering out. Be honest about that. Seeing as the genre has survived post-Endgame and continued to thrive, even despite some rocky reception here and there, it's a testament to these stories and characters being brought to life, although at this point, it's tough to see what exactly could bring them to an end, if anything. There's certainly still plenty to look forward to. Marvel Studios' next project... Sorry, I had an allergic reaction to saying this film's name because it's giving Marvel credit. Releases in theaters on February 17th worldwide. Look, if I hadn't made it abundantly clear by my tone throughout this video, as well as what I've touched on in previous videos about my thoughts on Marvel, the MCU, and Disney, I'm done with it. I wouldn't even be going and seeing the new Deadpool movie if it weren't for the fact that Hugh Jackman's my favorite actor. I'm done with superhero stuff. I'm done with lazy CGI. I'm done with forced political messaging. Why are people still supporting these? We need to be getting, movies into the theaters that are original, that have cool ideas that we haven't seen before, but studios aren't willing to take a chance on them because you guys won't go and see them. You don't go see them, they don't make money, studios won't take a chance on them, and it's a vicious cycle, and it's depressing. I told you guys in a previous video, I recently went and saw Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the old 1930s Universal Monster movie, in the theater. And you know what? It was amazing. Seeing an old black and white film like that in theaters, it was like being in heaven, with the exception that heaven will probably have better audio quality. But that's all you're getting from me on this one. Go ahead and give me your opinions in the comments below, because maybe you've got some insight that I don't or have different feelings, or you could let me know what those feelings are on Twitter, where you can follow me at BoltTheWord. And until the next time, check out the back catalog. I cover nerdy news, I cover Magic the Gathering, Dungeons & Dragons, Marvel, Disney, you name it, and you can find it here in the Nerdosphere. So please subscribe, because this has been Words of Paradise.